Hi everyone, Hollie Cassar here. First of all, massive thank you to West End Best Friend for asking me to join their Superstudy Hall of Fame. I'm very honoured, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about my experience as an understudy in a couple of the shows that I've been lucky enough to be involved in. First, I'll talk about my process and how I learn things. Very simple really. As soon as I get a script, I highlight everything. What I tend to do is highlight my own track in yellow, and then any other covers that I play, I'll highlight in different colours like pink or green. And then I have these like sticky things. I love stationery, by the way. These sticky like tabs that I stick in the pages so that I can get to the scenes quickly. So do that first. Then I learn my lines. Before I start rehearsals, I learn all my lines for all my roles, my covers, anything that I'm doing. And if there's any solo songs, I'll make sure I start learning them as well. And I know the music, I know the lyrics, I get it into my voice as well as soon as possible. Then in the rehearsal process, it depends on the job. So I'll talk more specifically about the two shows that I've been covers in. So first I was in the musical Crazy For You on tour. I actually did that first at the Watermill in 2016, where I played the role of Tess. But it was only a 3-month contract, so I didn't actually need to cover anyone. But the following year, the show went out on tour, and for the tour, I covered 2 roles. I covered the role of Irene. I was first cover for Irene, and then I also ended up later on in the tour being second cover for Lottie. With this particular show, the first covers were given out first, and then we learnt everything, and then a few months later we were given our second covers. So with Irene, which is the role I learnt first, it was slightly different again because I had a scheduled show, because the amazing Caroline Flack, who was playing the role of Irene for the first part of the tour, had an NA. She'd had it in a contract that she wasn't going to be doing the 2 shows in Dublin on the Saturday. So everyone knew that I was going to be on that particular day, so I had to be ready. So what they did was they had a rehearsal just for me, so that the focus would be just me learning everything, where it was just me and the resident director. We had, I think, 2 sessions in total. The first session, I literally was just told, stand here, do this, come in, and we'd run the scenes, me and the resident director together. And then the second rehearsal was just going through the song and learning the choreography. And that was it. I didn't get a cover run because it was very early on, and being an acting musician production as well, there was a lot of things that, you know, were more important at the start. And then obviously what I had to do, being a musician as well, was I had to combine doing the role of Irene, so all the acting and the dancing and singing, but then when I had to figure out if I could jump on stage and play the saxophone or play the double bass or the piano. And so I worked out a sort of combined track of my track and Irene's track, which sounds more complicated than it was. In the end, it was very simple. Yeah, that was that. I literally had 2 rehearsals, and then I had the first show in Dublin a few weeks later. Now the day in Dublin was a Saturday. It was a really special day because I knew I was going on. My husband was able to book his flights and book his tickets so that he would be there on the first day that I went on. And Caroline, she was so sweet. She left me a message on her mirror in her dressing room with her lipstick saying, you know, break a leg, you're going to be amazing and all of that. And she messaged me, and she was just the sweetest from the beginning. She was just so supportive. Yeah, that just made it really special. And yeah, and then the show happened. I went on. It was a blur. I think the first time you go on for any role, it's always a bit like out of body experience, because I mean, especially for me, I hadn't done a cover run at that point. I'd only ever rehearsed it with the resident director, so I'd never done the scenes with anyone else. So it was just so surreal, but I absolutely love that. As long as I know my words, I know what I'm doing, know where I'm supposed to go, I quite enjoy the thrill of just going on. So yeah, first show happened, it was a lot of fun, really enjoyed it. And then I remember between the matinee and the evening show, Tom Chambers, who was playing the role of Bobby, came up to me. And there's a bit in the show where Irene kisses Bobby in frustration, and she grabs him and just like, you know, really kisses him. Obviously, we'd never done that. We never rehearsed it. So after the matinee, Tom came up to me and was like, oh, first of all, well done, like you did such an amazing job. I was like, thank you, thank you. And he's like, but can I just ask you to do me like the tiniest favor? And I was like, yes, whatever you want, just tell me. I don't mind, you know, like if it's gonna help, please just tell me. So he was like, you know that bit when you grab me and you kiss me? I was like, yes. He was like, can you not grab me so hard with your hands? I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I think it's just, you know, the adrenaline or whatever. And I'm from Malta, so we tend to be quite passionate with things. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Of course. So then in the evening, I just made sure that, you know, I was really gentle with his head, and I still obviously had to kiss him passionately, and you have to lift your leg up and like, you know, do all this like smooching. But yeah, no, it was much better in the evening. And he was like, thank you so much. I was like, anytime. So that was that. I had an amazing debut, really enjoyed it. And then further down the line, Caroline injured herself. She hurt her back, and it meant that I had to take over the role for about 5 or 6 weeks. She was just gutted because she hadn't missed a show. She was always so professional, and you know, even if she was feeling a little bit under the weather, she would plow on, and she always did an amazing job. But you know, health comes first, and that's what, you know, I kept telling her, look, you look after yourself, that's the most important thing. And she was just the sweetest, always messaging me and checking up on me and asking how it was going. And yeah, she was an amazing person. After Christmas, the amazing Claire Sweeney took over the role, and there was some different choreography and a different costume as well, so I had to re-rehearse for that role again, just a number, because some things changed. I think it went on like once or twice when Claire was doing the role. As for Lottie, I never actually got to do that because I was second cover. And the thing is, when you're on tour and there's no holiday, you can't just take a week off. It's very rare that you get to go on as a second cover, so I never got to play that role, which is part of the job. You kind of know that when you take a second cover on tour, you're like, it's never going to happen. I mean, sometimes it does, but you know, most of the time it doesn't, which is different to what happened with On Your Feet. So with On Your Feet, it was the Broadway system, and on Broadway they don't have first and second cover, but it's a shared system. It's interesting because there's ups and downs to both aspects. The good thing about having a shared cover is that you actually get to go on for anything that you do cover. So in fact, I ended up going on for both roles that I covered in On Your Feet, whereas obviously with Craze for You, I never got to do my second cover. But then you kind of also don't know when you're going to go on, because it's like you take it in turns. So it's weird in that way because you can't plan as much. So with On Your Feet, I started that in summer 2019. We did a 3-month run in the West End at the Coliseum, and then we went on tour. Now the tour was supposed to finish in May this year, but Corona happened, so we ended up finishing I think 6 or 7 weeks earlier. I covered the roles of Gloria Fajardo and Consuelo. For those of you who don't know, the show On Your Feet is a story of Gloria and Emilio Estefan, and Gloria Fajardo is Gloria Estefan's mom, and Consuelo is Gloria Estefan's grandma. So I ended up covering the mom and the grandma, which was super fun, and I got to do both at some point during the tour. Yeah, Gloria Fajardo was very close to home because the character reminded me a lot of my mum. Very feisty, very stubborn, passive aggressive, amazing woman, but just like, you know, really feisty. And then Consuelo is literally like the heart and soul of the show. She's just the warmest, loveliest, Latin, hilarious grandma. And it was just a real joy and privilege to get to do both of those roles at some point. The rehearsal process, I learned Gloria Fajardo's role first. So we did a whole, you know, with all the other covers, we just went through the rehearsal, blocking and everything. And then we did a cover run. And then once that was done, then I moved on to learning Consuelo. And weirdly, the last week of the show, which we didn't know was going to be our last week, was in Aberdeen. And we knew a few weeks before that both Madalena, who played Gloria Fajardo, and Karen, who played Consuelo, love them so much, they were both going to be off, which was just crazy because that meant that we were going to be on for both Gloria Fajardo and Consuelo. So what we ended up doing was having like a split week. So I did half the shows as Gloria Fajardo and half the shows as Consuelo, which was super fun. And also it was great because my family could come and watch. My family live in Malta, which is quite far away. So they were able to fly over and actually watch both roles, which was it's such a rare thing to happen. I've been very lucky, very lucky. So yeah, so did that week. It was just So much fun, and the whole cast was so supportive. The last show, we didn't know it was going to be our last show, like of the whole show. I was playing Grow for Hardo, and that was that. We finished the show and then went home, and my mum was in the audience, and then that was it. The show's got all the shows across, you know, on Broadway, in the West End, on tour, just all got pulled because of the coronavirus. So little did we know that that was our last show. I think that's everything. I hope you found this relatively interesting. And thanks again to West End Best Friend for having me. Sending lots of love. Hope you all stay safe, stay positive. Theatre will always be around. Like, we'll all get through this. Just be kind to each other, look after each other, and stay safe. Lots of love.